October 21st virtual Trespass Towing Advisory Board meeting. I just wanted to go around and introduce myself and the rest of our attendees. I'm Caitlin Thomas. I'm one of the staff coordinators, work in the county manager's office, and also Ben Aiken. He is the other staff coordinator. And our contact information is in the agenda. And so we also, here we have our chairman, Mr. Matt Chiste, and we have Mr. James Toomey, Miss Latasha Chamberlain, and Miss Kimberly Jones, all part of our police department. And we have Mr. Fred Scheller. He is a towing operator in the county. And we also have two other members of the board who are not here, but hopefully they'll join us, Mr. Jeffrey Gattozzi and Mr. Al Leach. And just wanted to go ahead and read the charge for the TTAB. The TTAB shall review the current ordinance and any provisions recommended for amendments to the ordinance and provide input and recommendation for the county board's consideration. The TTAB shall meet at least once per year at the call of the chair. And if you can all see my screen, I'm going to go back up to the agenda. And at this point, we are on item 3, and I will go ahead and turn it over to our chairman.
Okay, I guess, yeah, you all have the agenda in front of you. There's not much to, I guess, review here, but I guess does everyone approve of the agenda? Basically, we're going to take a quick spin through meeting minutes from 2019 and then go through the proposed changes that came out of that and then open the floor for new business or discussion. Any objections, or are we good to move to, I guess, bullet point 3.5 here?
Good to move.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
I'm sorry, I need to mute myself. Go ahead.
So just for bullet point 3.5, like I said, we have the meeting minutes from 2019. Fred, I assume you have those in front of you as well. Here we go. I think one of the issues that was kind of frustrating for the towing board last year was that, we've been meeting for years now without any response from the county board. And I feel like this was one of the first times that the county board has replied to some of the proposals. So I guess I would open the floor. I've got a couple of, I just skimmed this. I've got 1 or 2 bullet points to cover in this, the notes from last meeting, but I first open the floor if anyone else has anything else that they wanted to cover from this document, if they reviewed it, or if you want me to go first and just open the floor for discussion. I will, yeah, just to keep the meeting flowing, I will consider silence is consent, but feel free to interrupt at any time. So I just start a couple of points here. If we go down a little bit, Caitlin, underneath marking of vehicles in the italicized in that first bullet point, we were going to ask whether or not that first paragraph, county attorney input needed regarding whether towers are required to have trucks marked. The proposal last time was to have the spotters be in marked vehicles, and the question was whether or not it's even legal to allow the county to require the spotters to be in the same marked vehicles like the tow trucks themselves are. And this was an open question to the county, which I don't think I saw addressed. So I guess my motion here would be to re-ask this question if it hasn't been addressed. Caitlin or Ben, do you know about that one?
I don't have it here in my notes. I will have to look through. I'm actually not sure if I addressed that with her. I honestly don't remember. I could have, but if not, I definitely will. I'm going to look through and see if I have anything, but if not, I definitely can. I can act on that. Okay,
and I think for these are just follow-up bullet points, so we don't need a motion just to move forward. We can do the formal process, I guess, on the other one. Let's see, the next thing that I started was simply saying, like, what I started this with was discussion of opening meetings to 3 times a year. It's, It's basically like, I'm sorry?
Could we just break with someone new joined us? I just want to offer an introduction, and then you can continue. I can't see who joined us. I'm sorry.
Hi, is this Joe Kennedy? This is Caitlin Thomas. I'm the staff coordinator for the Trespass Towing Advisory Board. Just wanted to say hello. I see you joined us. We're going to be doing public comment at the end. Feel free to listen to the meeting in its entirety, but if you wanted to say something, I would just ask you to mute until the end, and then we will open that up.
Great, thank you for that. I guess, yeah, the bullet point was what I was talking about was that we want to do, I mean, as chairperson, underneath discussion of opening meeting to 3 times a year. I wanted to thank the county board for actually responding this time. The bullet point basically said, yeah, we'll have the next meeting the next time we get some responses from the county. So that was just a thank you to the county for providing us with the proposed changes, which is the next bullet point. So that was really all I had to go over there. There was some discussion about rate increases and everything, which I guess I think there are some bullet points in the code changes, but is there anything that anyone wants to address from last year in terms of the rate increases or the barnacle stuff? I thought was very interesting last time that we didn't get too much into. Any questions or comments? Okay, I think we get to some of those bullet points in the proposed code changes. Caitlin, I think you had suggested we just go through the deltas in the document, and then we vote in the end whether we agree or if we have any proposed changes. Does that work for everyone? Just in the interest of time, I guess. Good. Okay. So I have a draft document. Does your document contain the comments on it, Caitlin, or are we just going to go through the regular document?
I am going to share with the group what I have. I have what you sent me, but what I'm sharing is just with my comments, because this is what staff has agreed, and this is what staff is supporting, and staff wants the TTAB to look over and pass. This is what we are approving to be recommended to the TTAB. So that's what I'm sharing. And then feel free to, you can share whatever you like with the group. Everyone can mark it up and do whatnot, but this is what staff has proposed.
So in theory, if we all sign on the dotted line on this, these would be the code changes that would then go to public hearings, where the county would propose and then the public would come in and make additional comments, or procedurally, what is the next step for these changes?
Right, so procedurally, I guess right now with the code now, the changes I have drafted up were based on the past 2 TTAB meetings. I worked with the county attorney, and and this was also based on the 2 TTAB meetings and Virginia code, and we were basically working to reconcile the county code. So that was the purpose, and we are bringing it now. This is a clean copy, a clean version that we are bringing to the TTAB for either your stamp of approval, and hypothetically, if there are no changes, if the TTAB agrees with everything written as it is, then we can take this, staff can take this to the manager for recommendation to the county board. If the TTAB wants to make changes to the document or add any markups or anything, then that's fine. But then once that happens, staff has to go back to the county attorney, shore it up, make it, basically reconcile it with the code, making sure everything is legal to go forward. And then we will come back to the TTAB with what staff and the county attorney has worked on.
I just make one point of clarification. We can come back to the TTAB, Matt, and that would be sort of up for based on logistics, whether we think that that's appropriate, or whether in the interest of getting some code changes in front of the board this year, depending on timing, that opportunity will fast slip behind us. So I think I'm just noting that, just based on schedules, we have to advertise changes and then adopt changes. So that's like a 2-month process just in and of itself. The county attorney's office review took months the last time. So I'm just offering that kind of friendly 2 cents to sort of contextualize how long this might take. But you're welcome to mark up, provide recommendations. And even if staff, for whatever reason, say the county attorney can't support the changes because they're not legally permissible, or we can't reconcile the language, staff will advance the changes, and then the TTAB would be certainly offered the opportunity to either make public comment or submit public comment or testimony to the county board in advance of those public meetings. So those are kind of all the flavors of options there.
Okay, and there certainly are things, like I said, I've got the biggest notes I have are about these contract issues, which didn't necessarily make it into here, but we could just call this our gold copy draft to move forward and defer contract recommendations for the next one, or for public hearings or something like that.
Matt, I do have a question for you. Did the last, I don't want to jump ahead, but I've just thought the last item on the ordinance changes address the contract, or until the second to last. But once we get there, I just wanted to highlight that, because I thought that would have addressed the contract issues. Yeah,
and we certainly can get there. Like I'm fine if it's as is. What's interesting about this code is there's actually several high-level sections that continue to reference the same thing. So it's like the tower is required to take photographs, and the tower is required to provide the photographs. So for some of the contract issues, it was just that should be included in all the repeating bullet points. Again, we can get to that discussion, but I think procedurally I feel comfortable with, even if everything goes out like this, but there's some dialogue and some bullet points that I hopefully would be able to go through.
Okay.
So unless there are any objections, we can go through with the comments here. I think we've all read this document 1,000 times, so maybe we just start with the comments themselves. Does anyone have to read this in real time, or has everyone pre-reviewed these comments? I'm going to assume everyone has pre-reviewed them, and unless I have any comments, I'm just going to continue to move through them. Is that a legit assumption, or do we want to read each comment out loud?
I'm good with that.
Okay. So for the first comment, one of the other kind of introductions to this code, which came up again, I think from Al, was the immobilization type of stuff and the barnacles, which I guess they were doing in Pentagon City. I had no objection to codifying that. I feel like that's it's a good protection for residents, because it's much less likely that their vehicle gets damaged. So from my perspective, all these bullet points about immobilization, I feel like are warranted, and we discussed them last time. So I'm fine with skipping forward to the next comment. Again, anyone feel free to speak up and interrupt if they feel otherwise. The next one, just basic language about Rex. The next one is about the immobilization. So we can, I guess,
the thing about the Rex real quick. We'll go back. The thing about the Rex. Okay. Wrecked or other emergency is parked or left temporarily. What's considered temporarily? 2 days, 2 weeks, a month?
That's an excellent question. So basically what it's saying, I'll defer to you, Caitlin, 1 second. I was just saying, the entire point of this code is for trespass towing, and they're just saying, hey, those people aren't trespassing if they're wrecked or if it's a police car. But you're right, Fred, if someone gets in a fender bender and parks in a lot for 3 days, they're at some point they become a wrecked car to a trespassing vehicle. So do you have a motion? Did you want to change that? you know.
I just want the definition of temporarily figured out because, again, these cars, someone's getting in an accident, you may have a busted oil pan or radiator, but you pull into a parking lot to leave your car there to get it towed while the stuff leaks all over the person's property and asphalt.
Mm-hmm.
So again,
So,
what's temporary? An hour, 3 hours, 24 hours?
Fred, I'd offer that we just document that question as an open question, and staff can address that either in the staff report to the board, or we can get back to the TTAB in writing with an answer from the attorney's office on what was exactly meant. Because I think the intent here is, as Matt was articulating, and I don't think it's it doesn't contradict what you're presenting, is that it simply is not supposed to apply where a car would have been otherwise deemed to have been in an automobile accident as documented by police or public safety. And maybe
I had an incident, and it wasn't in Alexander, it was in Arlington. Customer called me, they were in a fender bender, they pulled into a parking lot, got out of their car, went into the restaurant or whatever. While the car was wrecked, they were waiting for me to come pick it up. There was 2 vehicles. We picked up the first vehicle, left. We came back within 20 minutes to get the second vehicle with another tow truck, and it was impounded by a company called Rhino Towing for being for trespassing, for being on the property. So that's why I want to make sure there's a definition for temporary.
I don't think we have any. If any of our friends from the police department have any comments on this, or whether they've come across any similar issues.
I have not had that where the vehicle is pulled up onto private property. Usually, a tow truck will respond and take the vehicle to wherever the owner of the vehicle desires for it to go.
When you guys call for it, though, but a person calls their insurance company, right, and it's not considered a police-initiated tow because it's still drivable enough to get it off the roadway, and you guys let them pull in the parking lots. I've seen it happen all the time, and then the officer leaves. That person's sitting there waiting for their tow truck to come up. Let's say the insurance company says, we can't get to you for 90 minutes. And that person gets a ride with whoever, leaves their car sitting there, and then it gets impounded.
I understand what you're saying. I do. Question.
That's why I think we need that definition of what is temporary.
Absolutely.
I have it in
It's
my
mainly
notes to ask our county attorney, and I can bring that back.
Yeah, because it's mainly to protect the consumer and protect the citizen.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, the ultimate question is, at what point does a wrecked vehicle that is exempt from this law turn into a trespassing vehicle? If let's say they get into a fender bender and they take an Uber home, like, can they just leave their car there indefinitely because it was in a wreck? So I guess we can, the proposal there, and we can vote on it if you'd like, is just to ask the question to the county, because I don't think we didn't add this word wreck, right? Or was the word wreck added in this particular revision?
No, the word wreck was not added.
Okay, so that comment is just saying that this is how it.
Right, it's just a comment from the attorney stating that it does not apply to these vehicles.
And it's defined, I think you're referencing there, Caitlin, the state code. So we'd have to, if this is exactly what the state code says, we've just got to
it is.
basically get a determination there.
It is exactly what the state code says, but there's no definition.
Yeah, no, more than fair question. I agree.
Right. Definitely fair. I will run it up the chain and see what I get. Hopefully I can get some answers for you. But we will definitely come back with it.
Cool. We all okay moving on? Good. Thank you for that Fred, we've got that action item. Yeah, the next one was just the barnacles.
Did I skip it?
Yeah, the next one for the
Oh.
timing. Yeah, just the immobilization part there.
Okay.
This one, I felt like it didn't really address what we discussed last time. But I'm fine with leaving it how it is if everyone agrees. I think the discussion last time was the requirement originally said 24-hour by 7 days by 365. And someone had said, well, we have legacy signs that don't actually have 365 on there. So I think what we were saying, those change, is like if it says 24 hours, then you don't need to use the word 7 days because 24 hours is just all the time. But I think instead of striking this whole thing, it should just say at least 24 hours or be more specific about, like I wrote in my notes, like you could say 24 hours or equivalent unambiguous hours of operation. Like, let's say it's only during business hours or it's only during weekdays. So the thing we agreed on last time was just not to have redundant language like 24 by 7 by 365, but not to remove the time from the requirement. Does everyone feel like, do we all recall that discussion last time? So all I'm proposing, I guess, is in that first bullet point, we can strike the 7 days, but not the 24 hours part. And then in the second point where there's the comment, we leave the and days and strike the day of the week, right? So it's still unambiguously, if I get towed, the sign was very clear that 24 hours a day I can be towed.
So if it's a property that we can tow from 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we just have to have the 24 hours on the sign. Or do I have to change all my signs and put down there Monday through Sunday?
Exactly. And that's what the requirement says now. I think it says 24 hours by 7 days by 365 even. And what we agreed last time was, hey, you don't need the 365 or the 7 days. You just got to say 24 hours, which is what most of the legacy signs already say. You just have to specify the hours, as long you don't have to be redundant, right?
Right. That's what I want to make sure.
So we want to, you all are asked, so you want me to just, we want to keep the 24 hours, but strike out the 7 days.
Right. I mean, I think that's the spirit of what we talked about last time, is that all new signs can be whatever they want. But the complaint was last time that some of the old signs just say 24 hours on them. And they didn't say 7 days as well.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to unstrike. So I'm going to unstrike this part. So we'll leave in 24 hours and take out 7 days.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, it's a little ambiguous, but without making it too clear, like the ambiguous part is if there was a tow lot that only tows during business hours, technically they don't need to say 24 hours, but you know, I think the spirit of the law is more appropriate here. Just get rid of the 7 days because that's redundant, but at least be able to specify the hours of operation.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I guess the other one's fine because it still says hours in there.
Right, hours of, yes, so hours and days.
So,
Hours
and then technically my hours of operation could be 9 to 5 Monday through Friday or after dark during the weekends. Like your hours can be anything. It doesn't, you know. So I feel like that meets what we discussed last time, if everyone agrees. Any objections to that? Do we want to do a formal vote, or is that pretty a clarification that we voted on last time? Does that everyone agree? Fred, any objections? Okay. So yeah, I think
good.
we can move through that. All right, so the next one was a big one. I felt like it was weird to put planning district 8 or 16 in here. I know it's copying from state code, but don't we already know that we're just 8? Like, why are we referencing another district? Maybe I'm wrong about that. We are planning district 8, right?
Yeah, we are.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're just copying state code, so that's fine. But you know, that was the comment here. So this was where I had a comment on the contracts. So again, a big part of the reason contracts are important to me is, again, you know, the advanced towing lawsuit, which is contracts weren't specified. You know that, you know, literally advanced towing has a restraining order against me, or what amounts to that, for going to try and view a contract. So the district attorney has already determined that from their perspective, you know, advanced towing was violating these contracts. And we've heard advanced towing in previous meetings that have been recorded saying, we refuse to show these contracts. And what we kind of agreed on last time is, you know, give us just one of those summary things, which I guess, you know, from this is from the lawsuit. Like, these summary things are just, you know, a bunch of check boxes with contact information. So we don't have to change anything here, but I guess, you know, I could bring it up in a public hearing or something like that. But my real concern is defining, what does a contract entail? I noticed on these contracts in the lawsuit against advanced towing, doesn't even give you contact information. So when I was there with a resident who had been towed, he swears up and down that, you know, he never even left a lot, went into a restaurant, came out, and his car was gone. He wanted to go and complain to the restaurant owner or whoever authorized that tow. So what we were looking for was the person to complain to who had his vehicle ultimately towed, was the person who did the towing, or who authorized the tow. And even these contracts that I see in this lawsuit don't mention that. They don't give contact information. So we can defer it till next time, because I'd like to see some sort of changes come in. But when I talk about contracts, like, that was my notes for this particular bullet point, that it says that you shall maintain contracts for public inspection, but it doesn't specify the bullet points that are required. And, you know, maybe, you know, the towing industry will act on its own to, you know, be clear about what a contract means. But, you know, again, from my experience, I'd rather, you know, codify it and make it very clear, because I've had obviously some questionable experiences. So I'm fine with leaving this language in. You know, my point has been made. I've put it in writing. I think, Caitlin, you mentioned you might run it by the attorney just to see if there's any more clarification that could be done. But I'm fine with leaving this as is. Any objections or comments to that? Silence is consent. Do you guys want to move on? All right. It seemed to me that this sentence, the very first bullet point here, was redundant. Like, it's basically saying, hey, if a vehicle's towed, they can get charged for the tow. And I'm like, isn't that the whole point of this entire document, was documenting how they could be towed, or how they could be charged for the towing? Caitlin, did you have any specific, this is from your comment here, do you have any specific reason why this should be included? Like, at this particular point in the, you know, the bullet point says failure to report the tow results in a fine. So any comments?
This was just part of the code reconciliation. This came from our county attorney, added this in, and it's just from the Virginia code. It's just part of the reconciliation. So that was the point of it.
I've got no objections. It feels redundant to me, but I have no objections. I don't think, unless anyone objects, I don't think we need a vote. Do we want to include this here? Right. It basically says what this document says is that, yeah, if you get caught trespassing, you can get charged for it. Okay. Storage facilities. I didn't have any bullet points. The next one, I think, I'll state it here that D right there, right underneath, C, D, and it says the vehicle owner shall have the opportunity to inspect the vehicle. I mean, just a comment for the record, this one always felt really weird to me because, yeah, you have an opportunity to inspect it, but it never actually codifies that, the towing company is responsible or liable for reckless actions or anything like that. So I bring that up because I have a bullet point further down. So that one's just a comment and no suggested changes here. For
Which one were you commenting
on? D, that bullet point D.
D.
The vehicle owner shall have the opportunity to inspect the vehicle. It's about dead middle of the screen right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, of course they have the opportunity to inspect it. There's no, I mean, it just seems like an of course type of bullet point.
That's fine.
What I thought that was kind of bad for the towing company on E, I guess my problem with E was the mention of Arlington County there. So what if, because the tower, what I wrote here was towing company in Arlington could tow a vehicle from Fairfax to Arlington. So what we're saying here is that if an Arlington tow company tows from Fairfax to Arlington, they can turn off their lights at night because there are no Arlington vehicles that have been towed to that lot.
No,
I mean, go ahead.
Because under Fairfax County statute, if you tow a car out of the county, you're required to follow all their statutes too with your permit, which means you would have to remain open. You couldn't close just because it says you have no cars from Arlington. Okay,
I accept that explanation. I mean, that was my concern, was that like we're ignoring other counties, but if that's appropriate, that like this code, well, so does this code actually apply to Fairfax towers? I guess it does, right? Because the code applies to where you're towed from. Okay. Sounds good. I'm fine with that bullet point then. Yeah, now down to 14.3.8. Okay, so this was, again, the location where the issue of providing the contract to a resident in that A, we had A 1 through 8. The question was, hey, what else, do we want to include things in this list of what can be required? And I had proposed some language, which again, I think, Caitlin, you were going to ask the county about, but I'll read it out loud without even holding a vote, just to give an idea of, what I was proposing here. But if you get a receipt, and we already said you have to include, the county to be able to complain, and the website and the legal code that's relevant. But there's nothing that says in this language that says, like, you can request a copy of the photograph or video evidence showing the location of the vehicle and substantiating the reason for its removal, and the contract that authorizes the tow, including the contact information for the agent of the property owner that authorized it. So we talk about, again, the contract being available to them. And in this bullet point, we talk about the various things that they can have access to, but we don't talk about the contract in this particular one. The other thing we don't talk about is you have a right to get the photographic and video information, but unless it's specifically codified here, there's no email information for the towing company that you have to send an email to. Again, I've dealt with emailing advanced towing, and I have video evidence of them just saying, hey, no, we never got the email. So I guess at very least contact information of the towing company and information about you have the right to request a video, or I'm sorry, the contract, which is discussed further on. But again, like in this point, that's where I took the notes. Again, I'm doing this just to get everything out there. We can use this document as is and provide it to the county, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up to think about it for the next meeting about, changes that I feel like haven't gone far enough, or they've gone far enough in reconciling with the state code, but to me as a resident, haven't gone far enough in codifying what a resident's rights are when their vehicle's towed. So, yeah.
How about, I'm sorry.
Go
How
ahead.
about I'm just going to type, this is what Matt Tuesday has written up, so you guys can all just see it. I know we just read it, but I wanted to make sure everyone can see what he actually is proposing. So this, and he wanted it in this section, and actually to take out a notice that a copy of the photogenic or video evidence showing the location of the vehicle and substantiating the reason for its removal as required under 14.3-5 are available upon request. So his proposal is to strike through this section and add this, just so everyone is clear. I know I like to see things as well as hear them, in case it's not big enough. Oh, that's too big. Sorry. There you go. So again, his proposal is to remove this.
Well, no, he's to leave A7 in there because he references A7.
No,
Right.
A7 is actually a different section.
Oh, okay. I'm just looking. I just see the 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically it was taking that 7 there and just clarifying it. It adds information about, in addition to the photo and the video, you also have access to the contract, and then also how do I get access to it? So it mentions things like we discussed last time, like a self-addressed stamped envelope and email contact information. So I'll let you guys read it, but it's basically just
clarifying. But I can easily say I never got your envelope in the mail too.
Hey, I proposed it be certified mail, but the towing industry shot that down. I'm trying to kind of meet in the middle, right? So I literally went on site to Advanced Towing with the resident to get access to this, and John O'Neill called the cops and had a restraining order filed against me. So at some point, a resident needs access.
At some point, you guys just need to get rid of Advanced Towing because that's where your issue is.
Hey, I mean, the law's the law. So I mean, we're all trying to just meet the code. So in this particular case, if there was a law that said, hey, if you have a legitimate business to be on site, you get access to this stuff, then I'd be fine with it. But I'm just trying to address that have specifically happened, just like you with the towing from a property where there were 2 wrecked vehicles, right? These situations don't happen very often, but it's our job to recommend changes to the county to address them and determine what, how the county should act or behave when these things happen.
It'd be better off sending an email with a delivery receipt. That way you know it was delivered to the email address. Then they couldn't deny it in a court. That'll stand up in court.
I'm actually in technology, and you can actually forge those receipts. So email receive receipts, you can actually deny them. So if I sent you an email and I said do a return receipt, they don't have to actually check the box to send the return receipt. I mean, it's a thorny
problem. That's the read receipt. The read receipt. I'm talking about just delivery receipt. I used them in court before and they worked. Not read, delivery.
It's a thorny problem that I'm willing to table just in the interest of getting this, well, first of all, moving the meeting along, and second of all, getting this document approved by the county.
Oh, no, you can leave it in there. I think it's just redundant because there's only one company apparently that's doing this, but I mean, it's fine.
Do we want to take a vote on it? I mean, it's basic language. I think we'll leave it to the county attorney to clarify the language, but the concept here, right, was that the residents have access to this information. So I guess I'm willing to make a motion. I don't want to derail kind of the objective of Caitlin and Ben to move this forward without this language in here right now. So how do you guys feel? Caitlin, Ben, could we make a motion and make the recommendation, but also include in here that we don't want this to derail the rest of the documents or the rest of the changes?
Yeah, I mean that's fine. At the end of the day, it's still the manager's discretion of what to bring to the board. So you're just advising us and advising the board. So however you want to form the motion, I think is fine with me. You can also wait if you're getting your virtual head nods right now. Wait until the end and then make a motion to basically recommend the document as revised during discussion or something like that, and then take it all at one time and then move on.
Okay, let's go with that. Again, just in the interest of time, and it seems like we all have kind of a general high level agreement. For the next one, raising the fees. It said that there was a vote that we raised the fees, but did we really?
I can clarify that.
Go ahead.
So in 2018, which was prior to my time, but I read the minutes, and there was a recommendation to increase the base tow fee from $135 to $150. However, that was before it was legal per the state code. So, but then last year there was another vote to raise it, and at that point it was legal, but the vote did not pass. So, I think the version that I sent you, the first version I sent you, I've actually clarified it. This is the most recent one. I have the verbiage in there. I've struck through, which is essentially reflecting 2018. And so now what's in there now reflects 2019, which is effectively no change to the code. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm looking at one of the original docs.
I think the rates up here should reflect what the state code says. Arlington in Northern Virginia is the most expensive area in the whole state to live in, much less operate in. And we're not getting the state minimum, which is $150, which was passed by the General Assembly.
I'll defer to Caitlin. I think the issue is you are getting the minimum, but you're not getting the maximum, right? Because it says no more than $150.
Right.
And I'm open to discussion about raising the rate. It's just you're not getting the maximum, which again would be a fair argument to make, given that Arlington is the most expensive region in the state.
It is, so we should be getting the maximum.
Right.
Every year, the rents go up, the taxes go up, benefits go up, cost of equipment go up. Nothing ever goes down in our business.
So what happened last year was that Planning District 8 and 16, which obviously includes us, they were allowed by state code to increase their base tow fee. But that means that our county board would obviously have to approve that minimum increase, and that has not happened. So right now we are just allowed to, but that has not been implemented.
I understand that, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't put it in here and let them decide on it.
Right. No, I was just clarifying, just so everyone was clear on what the history. That's all I was saying. But yes, feel free to discuss.
I think from my perspective, it hasn't changed since the last time, or the last meeting, which was, we discussed about what is the justification for raising the price. And I know, there was discussion about a study that the county did, and there's a discussion about, I think even the tow industry themselves did a study about, they provided their financials and said, hey, this is the the cost of doing a tow or something like that. And I think that was kind of rejected in the argument from the tow industry. Don't let me put words in your mouth, Fred, but the argument was, hey, look, it's just cost of living increase. We don't need to justify raising the price.
I did a study with Fairfax County, and I gave them the way they calculate the cabs with the increases for what equipment costs, wear and tear. And this was back in 2009. And they came up, the county came up using my numbers that the price of a tow should be $165 back then.
Oh, so can I jump in and just provide a little bit more context? So that, I don't think, were you in the meeting last year? I don't think you were.
I wasn't available. I was out of town.
Okay, right. So, this definitely was discussed, and staff brought the TTAB's recommendations from 2018 to the manager when the base tow fee was requested to be increased. But the manager was just asking for justification based on economic data. He just wanted to see data, and the towers that we had at the meeting last year we just could not get the data provided. So that's good to hear that you worked with Fairfax and you were able to, provide data, and you guys came to a new base tow fee number. So the county is more than willing to hear and accept any information you want to provide. That's great to hear.
No, tell him, send me a list, whatever he wants, I'll give it to him.
I would say as a starting point, Fred, if you have that 2009 study and that material that documents it, I don't think we would, and your sort of statement supporting that none of this has changed, and in fact that these costs have continued to increase. I think we could take that as at least a starting point for a conversation with the manager. It was to that point, and this is the first time I'm hearing about any study with Fairfax. My recollection was the same as Matt's and Caitlin's, was that no one provided anything, so we didn't have anything to go on. But if you provided really anything, that was more than what we had last year. And also whatever the towing board seeks to include now, that's up to you, and we're more than willing to bring that discussion to the manager.
I'll see if I can find it, because this is, like I said, back in 2009.
Okay, and we can give you a list of some things that we've discussed internally with the manager around.
That's fine. Like I can show you invoices, what I paid for a truck here, what I paid for the exact same truck nowadays.
Okay.
How much oil filters, simple things like oil filters go up every year, tires go up every year, insurance goes up every year.
I don't think, I don't doubt it. I think, just seeing literally even just basic information like that, even if it's not a study, or a formally commissioned thing. But we get it that the cost of living keeps rising. But, my personal hesitation is just if the cost, like every single time, like there's just a proposal to raise the rate.
Because they haven't been raised in so long.
I think
why.
I think that's kind of what we were uncomfortable with, or that's what I was uncomfortable with, is just because the rates haven't raised in a long time. That's what I was uncomfortable with. I'm fine.
No, because you guys haven't raised the rates. So what happens? Every year we have to keep coming back and asking. If it would have been done back when this went into effect, we wouldn't be asking anything.
Fair enough. I think again, you weren't attending in the last meeting, but
I've been to all the meetings. I've been to every meeting before that.
Okay.
We ask every year, and we get shot down. It used to be $100 a tow. Yeah,
and that was the other counter argument, was that the rate has been going up because it's been mandated by the state. So it was $100 a tow, and it didn't have the after-hours fees.
So far behind. It was so far behind back then. It was $75 for 20 years.
I don't, all we're looking for is evidence. Like from my perspective as a resident,
that's fine. Ask me. I'll give you any evidence you want to see. I'm an open book.
Love it. I don't object, and to be very clear, I don't object unilaterally to raising the rates if it's justified. So I think I like hearing, having someone being more, more open to sharing those metrics. And even if it's shared privately with the police officers, and not with the public, because I think that was another kind of concern from the last meeting is they didn't want to share any information at all because, they didn't want to make stuff public. But yeah, I would not hesitate to raise the fee. I think, the property owners, it's beneficial to property owners to keep a viable towing industry in Arlington. Like I know it's an uncomfortable and an unpleasant industry, but it's got to be done to protect property. And if you can't stay in business at 135, then we should vote to raise the rates. So all we're asking for is
and again, if you're getting paid what you should be getting paid, you don't have guys going around doing stuff. Well, that's kind of on that borderline of gray area, snagging the car, where they'll be more likely to say, okay, it's gray area. When in doubt, leave it alone. There's another car I can get. They're not scraping to get by.
I like that. I mean, one other thought I had, like, and maybe it's a question for the county, and I know this probably wouldn't be popular with you, Fred, but like, what about, could there be some sort of tax also included for the county? Like, so if there was, it was $175 a tow, could you raise it 25 for the towers and 25 for the county? Just in terms of to make enforcement better. And Fred, I totally hear you, right? Like,
but I think the problem is with the tax. I get what you're saying, but I think the problem with the tax is you'd be taxing a service. It's, you're taxing like it's considered a labor. The towing of the car. That's why there's no taxes on it. Like we don't pay a sales tax on it to the county, but we do pay taxes on our revenue.
That's true. I think I withdraw that comment because I don't want to derail your point about raising the rates. So for this action item, could we, I mean, Jim, do you have in mind what type of evidence you'd like to see, or do you want to leave it an open book for Fred to postpone the vote? Like, how would you like? Go ahead.
I mean, last year when it was proposed to raise the rate, all I wanted to see was why, to kind of protect I want to protect people who are coming into the county who are, using businesses here, staying here, visiting here, shopping here, working here, yada, 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 to make sure that the increase is warranted, that it's not just to increase it because we can increase it. And that's basically what my comment was last year. And that's why we were asking just for some measure of something to justify the increase, so that when people complain that all of a sudden the price jumped, that we can say, well, this is why it jumped, not just because we can increase it. And I think if Fred has that information, even if it is from 2009, I think that's good. That's still relevant information that we could use to justify the price jump, so that the county board, county manager, and everybody else is a little bit more comfortable with saying, this is why we have to do it, is because stuff's expensive. I mean, we all know it's expensive, but we just want to be able to see it in some sort of form, so that we can make it a lot more comfortable to do this price increase.
Okay, I'll get you the information. I'll send it to Caitlin.
Yes, we will definitely connect. Thank you. That's great, Fred.
Yeah, and I like it. I mean, my only comment about 2009 is it's an old study or whatever, but whenever we raised from 100 to 130, there was a period, and I remember it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where we raised it from 100 to 135, and we added the extra $50 in the next bullet point. What I'd be interested in seeing is just in the last 4 years, maybe you show your rent has increased by 18%, or, the cost of a truck or the cost of an oil filter. Like, I'm interested in seeing, if we assume that the cost was fair back then when we raised it to 135 and the extra $50, that's like from someone who got their car towed, that now the cost went from $100 for a tow to $185 a tow, assuming they were in the weekend after hours. So from the resident's perspective, the cost went up 85%, right, during, 4 years ago. I think we've all accepted that, that's maybe we were just resetting to what the current fair rate was at the time. But what I'd be looking for is in the past 4 years, what percentage should we raise above that $185 for the nights and weekends tows? That seem fair enough? I mean, I feel like it's a pretty low bar. You could probably justify the cost of living expenses have gone up in the past 4 years.
I can do that with wages and the cost of health insurance alone.
I think that would be enough
Because you
for,
want to pay somebody a livable wage. You're not paying them $8 an hour, $10 an hour like you were back then.
that would be enough for me to see that difference in the past 4 years. Everyone else, Jim, Letitia, everyone feel okay with that? All right.
Yeah, I think that would work.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Cool. Let's move on, and we can do another quick meeting in December when my chairmanship ends, and we could vote me out and vote on that topic. So yeah, I'm happy, Fred. I'm trying not to fight you on it. I want to meet in the middle on that. So I appreciate you being willing to work with us on that.
No problem.
That was all I had, I think, in that section. The very last section, if we go down, again, I'm assuming no one had any other points. If we can go down another page, Caitlin, to the next changes.
Well, we were right here.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to address
I think this is the same bullet point, right? This is just raising the extra fees from 25 to 30, right? Am I
Right. So that was a change. That was a legislative update. That was the only one for this year. And it's allowing. So it says for towing a vehicle between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. on any Saturday, Sunday, or holiday, an additional fee of no more than $30 per instance can be charged. However, in no event shall more than 2 such fees be charged for towing any vehicle. So this is an increase from, so what the county is allowed to do is to increase it from $25 to $30. And I wanted to, staff is bringing that to the TTAB as an update for your attention, for your discussion.
So it
Fred?
sounded like you were bucketing that all together. Basically, if Fred comes back with some justified points, then we'll just roll that all in, assuming that it goes from 135 to 150 and it goes from 25 to 30.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
That was passed last year.
I understand now. Gotcha. Thank you.
I have one last, I know we're actually under time here, but the one last thing under, I think I might have my pages out of order. I think both of those, neither of those, I mean, those are the barnacle thing, the immobilization. So I had no comments on those. Anyone else? I'll leave open floor for these 2 bullet points. Okay, I think, yeah, we agreed on that last year, so I think we're okay. And then the very last thing under records, go up a little bit, Caitlin, actually. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, down. There's the white gap in there. See number 9 there? You know what I'm proposing for number 10.
Let's see.
It's basically saying what are the records that need to be maintained, and again, the contract is something that has not been mentioned. It's mentioned in other bullet points, but not here.
Okay, so this language is.
I'm sorry, up a little bit. Right, see where it says number 9?
Uh-huh.
I'm proposing adding a number 10 there, which was the contract. It's just the records that the tow company has to maintain. So it's just to keep it consistent with the other sections where we talk about the photographs and everything. If you want to go up to the top of that bulleted list to show everyone what that list is of.
This is, yeah, so here you are.
So it's just to be consistent with the rest of the document. I don't know if, well, go ahead and read it.
So Matt wants to add in to number 10. He wants to add in, I'll copy the language over so you all can see it. He wants to add in the contract authorizing the tow at the time of the tow to the records section, and that every towing and recovery operator shall maintain a record of the following information for each vehicle. And he wants to include the contract under that section.
But isn't it already under number 5, the basic information you're looking for from the contract?
Well, that's what I mean. A lot of these points, they're duplicate lists over and over. So I'm fine with going up, but it's
So
like
number 5 says the name and address of the person and or entity who authorized the tow. That's on the
oh,
contract. Right there, because that's the information you're looking for.
I'm fine with that. I mean, it doesn't give the terms or the contract, but that's
That's
always
what
what I'm most interested in. So I'm
Right,
fine
exactly.
with that.
It's already there. Because I know what you want the contract for. You want to be able to get hold of the person who authorized, signed the contract, authorizes the tow of the vehicle. It's right there already.
Agreed. So I'm fine with that that bullet point without adding 10.
Okay, I'll take it out.
Good catch. The rest of the stuff we voted on last time, Fred, I'll give you a moment to read this. We all agreed on this stuff, but I have no further comments on this.
I'm okay on it. I already read it on my draft that she sent out. I've got it marked okay.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me none.
Okay. And we are, the last section, the county attorney has advised us that the $1,000 fine is just not enforceable. So we're recommending to clean up the code to remove it because it is not authorized under Virginia code.
If it's not authorized, I've got no comments. What is a class 4 misdemeanor? What are the consequences there? Is it a financial fine or just a ticket or a court date?
Maybe a question for our police officers.
Yeah, I think it's, I'm double checking because I don't want to give wrong information. But I think it's a $250 fine, but let me just double check before I say that as if I know.
It is, Jim. I think you're under 18.2-11 punishment for conviction of misdemeanor, and it details the class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4. Class 4 being the least of those for a fine of not more than $250.
Whew, I was right.
Nice.
You passed that quiz.
It's been a long time since I've been in the police academy.
Nice. Okay, so that's the end of staff's recommended changes.
That's the bulk of the meeting here. We have a bullet point. I'm going back to the agenda now, the new business. Or we wanted to review the complaints. Did we want to put that up? I guess that was.
Sure.
Before we lose this, Matt, maybe just put the comments as edited up for a vote. If that's your intent.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I make a motion that we submit the changes as commented to the county board. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Fred. So then we vote people who are in attendance, right? So all in favor of submitting this language to the county for review, say aye.
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 I think that's unanimous. Did I hear Kim in there?
Yes.
There we go. So I passed by unanimous consent of the people in attendance. I guess, Caitlin, you'll document who's not in attendance, right?
Yes, I have that. Perfect.
All right. Thank you for that, Ben.
Yes, thank you, Ben. Okay, so I will put up the tow complaints from our agenda on the screen. One second, my computer's being a little slow. There it is. This is the list of complaints, and there's also another document with the total tows, and then we can also talk about just the numbers for the total tows as well.
So the observations I had on this in particular is, my first question is findings. Findings, it could be like, was the resident in violation or was the towing company in violation? So, just let's take that second bullet point, like advanced towing, fire lane violation. It says in violation of county code. Does that mean the resident was actually in the fire lane, or that advanced towing should not have towed them?
That means the resident was in violation.
Okay, so the findings of the resident. So when it says the resident was in compliance of the county code, does that mean that the resident got a refund for the tow?
We do not authorize the refund. That's a civil matter, so that's between the resident and the tow company in which towed them.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay. The only other question I had that kind of struck me as funny was there are still tows from Gold's Gym, which I guess, just throwing this in the record, like that's literally the lot that is kind of the crux of this lawsuit here, that I'm surprised that there's still tows from that location. I know that's the problem location in all of Arlington. So it was just interesting to me, but we don't need to have a discussion for it in the interest of time. I will just state for the record, even for the people who are publicly on this call and for the recording, there are a good number of complaints here, but when we talk about the number of tows that have occurred so far this year, there have been 9,000 tows in the first 3 quarters of this year. And that means there's roughly 12,000 for the entire year. So this complaint list, again, I know the tow industry points it out every time, but I'll do the same. That the percentage of people who are towed or who actively go and file complaints is very low. I've contended in the past that it's just mostly because people are not aware of the complaint process, but I think we're addressing that with the towing code. So I feel pretty good that we're making progress, and hopefully we can keep the number of complaints low.
But if I'm not mistaken, last year was 20,000 tows, or 18,000. The year before was 20,000 tows. This year, I don't think you'll hit 12,000 tows.
I believe it. It's on trend, but it could slow down in the fourth quarter. But yeah, I think that's a fair assessment that especially during COVID and these strange times, like the numbers are way down across Arlington. So. Any other questions or comments about the complaints or the number of tows? All right. Let's see. Reviewing this after. Yeah, I'm looking at the agenda, and literally the next step is any new business. Anyone have anything else to add? Now's the time. We'll get into a public comment if anyone on the call wants to speak in just a moment. I'll mention briefly, well, give you a moment for next steps. I'll give you 5 seconds to anyone who needs to speak up. Okay, so no new business. My only comment on next steps is Like I said, my chairmanship is coming to an end in the December timeframe. We spoke before a couple of people had joined the call. And we're going to stand by for Fred to get us some numbers and potentially vote on the rate change, which has been authorized by the state, but not yet by the county. I propose maybe a December timeline, but I'll defer to Ben and Caitlin for the scheduling of that next vote. And that's all I had. I'll do a public comment if there's no other objections to wrapping this up. All right. Honestly, I don't know. Do we do raise the hand, Caitlin, in public comments? I think all we have is what, Joe, Zach.
Yes, we have a Zach and a Joe. So either one of you, if you just want to raise your hand or unmute yourself, whoever goes first, feel free.
And
Nothing for me. I was just listening in.
Okay.
thank you for attending. Joe, any points? I guess I recognize Joe's name. He was in attendance at the last meeting, and he had something to say. He might be muted, but all right, Joe. Feel free to reach out to anyone on the board if you have additional comments, and thank you for attending as well. I think with that we can close up this meeting, and I appreciate everyone's attendance and service on the board. I guess next time, hopefully, we will be able to welcome Al formally as the new towing advisory board member. That's all I've got.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Everybody
all.
stay
Have a good
safe.
evening.
Stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks.
too. Bye.
Have a good night.